Hi, my name is Jeff Calhoun. I'm an assistant baseball coach at UC San Diego in La Jolla, California. I am presenting my topic today for the quality of character presentation on responsibility. I think this is a great topic to cover as a college baseball coach where your job is spent majority of the time looking after student athletes. Student athletes are such a major part of everyday life for college sports that it makes it really important for us to be responsible as coaches to develop them into, at least for baseball, and I can speak for this, develop them into young men and take them from teenagers and have them graduate as young men ready to go make a difference in society. Today we're going to introduce a couple different things. We're going to cover what responsibility is, whose responsibility is it, I think is a really good question a lot of people always get confused on or caught up in, is who's actually responsible in what situation, and then examples of how we show it. So with that said, we'll continue into the presentation. First, we'll cover what responsibility is. The definition for me of responsibility is the act of taking ownership of something regardless of the outcome. I think we talk a lot about Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL that lives in San Diego. We talk about him a lot, where he has a book called Extreme Ownership. We've read his book. We've listened to his book via audiobook as well, and talked to our players a lot about it. Is that you need to have an extreme ownership of what's going on, and that's what is a great example of what responsibility is. If I'm in charge of something, I want to make sure I do that task to the best of my ability and go above and beyond to be successful with it. The dictionary definition, according to dictionary.com, is a state or fact of being responsible, answerable, or accountable for something within one's power, control, or management. One thing that is a little different with that definition is that it says it's the fact of being responsible, which is a part of responsibility. So looking into what the definition of responsible is, it's the exact same definition, just a different beginning part to it. Excuse me. So with that said, what is the coach's responsibility? How are we responsible? I think we need to be able to show examples to our players of what responsibility looks like. I think for us, like I said, after reading Jocko Willinick's book, showing examples of what extreme ownership is. So for me as an assistant coach, I work with catchers, and in coaching catchers, I make sure that I do everything I can to develop them and make sure they're ready to go on game day, where there's other coaches that are in charge of outfielders, infielders, and pitchers. So with that being said, I'm going to spend all of my time when we're working on defense with catchers. I'm not going to worry about what the outfielders are doing. I'm not going to worry about what the infielders are doing. I want to make sure that the extreme ownership is shown to our catchers. Hey, our responsibility is this. We're going to make sure we're the best at what we do. Also holding them accountable for what they are asked to do on a daily basis. We require our players to maintain a certain amount GPA while following a certain amount of study hall hours, and with that said, that's a big part of their day that gets taken up. They also have field assignment jobs, they have travel requirement jobs, they have expectations of what's right and wrong in the weight room, so they have a lot of time that they have to be able to be organized. So with that said, it's really easy for them to maybe slack off in a certain area, and it's our job to hold them accountable. Accountability and responsibility, I think, go really hand in hand of what is right and how do I go about it. I think teaching them the characteristics of being responsible is important. I think that making sure that they understand that being accountable, being able to be asked to go do something and have a yes sir attitude is going to make a lot of difference in their lives further down the road as they prepare for a job. I think some examples of this also come down as our head coaches. For us right now, the NCAA just released a new rule of head coach responsibility. The quote is, imposes a presumption of head coach accountability for impermissible acts committed by assistant coaches and administrators in the program. An example I put down was the Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky incidents at Penn State University a few years ago. For us as assistant coaches, it's our job to make sure that our head coach understands what's going on. We're spending a lot more time, I think, with players and student athletes than our head coach does. So when that happens, you see a lot of different institutions right now running into problems with their assistant coaches kind of running rampant and not letting the head coach know what's going on and committing violations and doing things improperly, and then the head coach is saying, "Oh, I just didn't know," and then only the assistants get in trouble. So for us as a UC school, UC San Diego has an expectation that if anything goes wrong in regards to a recruiting violation, in regards to a student code of conduct, our job is to report it to the head coach. If we find out as assistant coaches, we tell our head coach. There's also a chain of command leading that way up. So if something doesn't get taken care of by our head coach, we take it to our athletic department, sports supervisor. So for us, it's our associate AD, and then if she doesn't handle it, we take it to our athletic director. So with that said, I think for me, my good question as a coach right now that I kind of wanted to leave our class with was, if the top of the chain of command doesn't handle what's going on properly or doesn't acknowledge it going on with the violations, who do you go to next? Who's the next person you're supposed to go to? You're supposed to go to the president of the college? Are you supposed to go to the dean? I don't know. It's just something I thought I'd leave and allow our class to discuss it at a further time. I think with the assistant coaches, it's a hard position to be in because there's a lot of different ideas between what is right and wrong. There's a little bit of the term I would go with would be whistleblowing fear. I think in our line of business as assistant coaches, if you blow the whistle on your coaching staff for violations or for issues going on, and then your coaching staff gets fired, it's going to be really hard, according to some, to get a new job. Which then brings up the ethical issue of, if me doing the right thing is costing me a job, how does that make any sense? So that's something, ethically, you're showing responsibility and holding yourself accountable by reporting yourself for misconduct and then getting fired for it. It just shows some flaws that are involved in our NCAA athletic department and NCAA athletic departments right now. We moved on to some biblical references, just in regards to responsibility. In Galatians 6:4-5, it says, "But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not his neighbor. For each will have to bear his own load." I think this is really good. It's something that we tell our players all the time. We don't want to look into the other person's we don't want to look at the other team's dugout. We don't care what they're doing. We got to take care of what we do. It's important for us to prepare our team to be the best team that we can be, not worrying about what the other team is looking like. Each team is going to look similar. We talk about competing against the game. It's the process we talked about earlier in the year in this course, that what is the process and do we talk about it? We talk about it a lot. We're competing against ourselves in the process. Some quotes on responsibility. One's by Abraham Lincoln, obviously the president during the Civil War era. "You can't escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." I thought that was really good. Something that I actually talked to our players about after a loss this weekend. Next one was by Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of England during World War II. "The price of greatness is responsibility," which I really like. And then the final one was leadership. "Leadership is about taking responsibility, not making excuses," which is by Governor Mitt Romney. Also included some movie clips on responsibility as well. One from Spider-Man, the movie, one from We Are Marshall, and then one example of what responsibility does not look like with a quick clip from The Simpsons. One of our references that I went back to was from Ethics 101, the book we read by John Maxwell, regarding "When others trust me, I receive responsibility and authority." I think that's something that as a recruiting coach, my job is spent so much working with student athletes and talking to their parents and allowing them to understand that my job is to develop their son. If we sign a kid, we're getting entrusted with their son. That's the greatest gift that a parent can give you, is to develop their child. So I think this really falls into the same category in regards to that with Ethics 101 in the book. And with that, that's my presentation on responsibility. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing others in our class's videos. Have a great day.